8 of the world's strangest borders that you should visit. The Poland-Ukraine border. Most international borders are generally defined by a welcome sign along with an unassuming customs office. But that's not the case for this certain stretch of farmland shared by Wales, Ukraine, and Horydyszcze, Poland. In 2011, these two countries tapped Jarosław Kaczara, the Polish barn artist, to create a particular piece of land art that encompassed cultures on both sides of the border for the annual Land Art Festival that celebrated the intersection between art and nature. The result was a huge crop circle fish that symbolized the unity between these two countries. The China-Nepal border. Other than the wind quickly whipping past at incredible speeds, it's quite low-key at the 29,000-foot summit of Mount Everest. Very few people can actually say that they've made the difficult trek to the top of the Himalayas' highest point, which lies on both sides of Nepal and China and is the tallest mountain peak in the world. The Netherlands-Belgium border. It's incredibly unlikely that there could be a more elaborate border crossing than the one that just zigzags through Barle-Nassau. This Dutch town happens to share the border between Belgium and the Netherlands with its sister city Barle-Hertog located on the Belgium side. To keep things in order, the two countries had agreed to clearly define their border by installing white crosses directly into the pavement all around town. The border runs through nearly everything from shops and lawns to houses. Elections also happen to be quite a challenge in these towns. The Pakistan-China border. At almost 15,397 feet in elevation, the Khunjerab Pass, a mountainous highway that directly pierces through the Chinese and Pakistani border, happens to be the highest paved international border crossing globally and even marks the highest point on the Karakoram Highway. In the distance lies the Karakoram Mountains, a huge range that spans almost 311 miles and crosses straight through Pakistan, India, and China. Some historians continue to question its existence, but the pass is also home to multiple glaciers and even traces a very similar path to Silk Road. This is an ancient series of routes that merchants would use to trade silk along with other goods. Diomede Islands. USA and Russia happen to just be a few miles apart. The Diomede Islands are actually separated by the international date line that currently marks the border between Russia and the US. Big Diomede is the Russian Federation's property, while Little Diomede is the property of the US. Since Big Diomede is just 23 hours ahead of its Russian counterpart, courtesy of the international date line, it is generally called Tomorrow Island or Yesterday Isle. The Yupik Eskimos originally inhabited the islands almost 3,000 years ago. Today, no permanent population actually resides here, but the site still serves as the base of Russian troops and even reportedly houses a weather station. The United States-Canada border. What initially looks simply like an unassuming convenience store named Jim's Corner just between Minnesota and Manitoba, Canada, happens to be a tiny border crossing building equipped with a video phone that has two lines. One is directly to a customs agent in Canada and one for the US, depending on which direction you're heading. However, that's not the only unusual feature of this crossing. To get to the US side of this store, visitors would have to drive through Canada. The crossing happens to be tucked in Lake of the Woods, Minnesota, an exclave that is surrounded by Canada and is in the northernmost portion of the US. The Argentina-Brazil-Paraguay border. This tri-border shared by these three countries is actually formed by a natural convergence of two rivers, the Iguazu River as well as the Paraná River. The region of the Foz do Iguaçu is where Brazil, Argentina and Paraguay form a triple frontier and is also said to be one of the most historically important tourist attractions here. Visitors can even catch a lovely glimpse of the Tancredo Neves International Bridge that connects the Argentinian city of Puerto Iguaçu and the Brazilian city of Foz do Iguaçu. At the convergence of all these borders, the countries have respectively erected an obelisk that has been painted in their national colors. The Spain-Portugal border. One of the longest and oldest borders in Europe, the boundary that lies between Portugal and Spain is referred to as the Strip. Though the border once held great significance, the 1985 Schengen Agreement removed all of the internal borders in Europe and made this area a complete passport-free zone. The border happens to follow a careful linguistic separation between the two countries, apart from a handful of Portuguese-speaking Spanish communities. The cross-border tour in these countries has generally attracted many tourists.